Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Green Truck Records podcast. I'm your host, Cayle Hunter. Today, I've got Shelby Cobra with me once again, the other half of Cobra Hunter, the first act to come out to put out anything on Green Truck Records, which is just awesome. And as most of you know, if you're listening to this, we do a new podcast for every single song that Green Truck releases. Today, we're going to do Brown Drink Poison. If I could speak today, we're going to have a good show. But today we're going to do Brown Drink Poison from the debut Cobra Hunter record. So, Shelby, the title of the song is Brown Drink Poison. I have one guess of what it's about, but
yeah, you're right.
It's a very subtle song title. It's steeped in subtlety, double meanings, double entendres. So I actually wanted to start this one out because I want to talk about where this song came from, and then I want you to tell me like where you went with like just the vocals and all that stuff. But where it started is a clear ripoff. So I just want to get it out of the way. If anybody's listening, I was listening to like Bruce Springsteen and some other 80s stuff, and they always had that swing, like they always had, and people would do their 80s dance, like the Carlton dance and all that stuff. And you look at any old 80s show, yeah, exactly, they always had that. They were doing their 80s swing dance because so many hits in the 80s had that swing to it, right? And today there's not a lot of songs that have that type of swing because it sounds like very dated, like it's from the 80s. Then you and I were talking about our old days of playing in a cover band, and we would play Dark Side by from that movie,
John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Blues Band.
Right. And it was Dark Side. Eddie and the Cruisers was the name of the band in the movie, right?
Uh-huh.
Right?
Eddie Lives. We
used to play that song live. I don't know how many people knew that song really well, but it always went off because they would just like, we would stop sometimes and just do like
On
drums.
the Dark Side's the name of the song.
Yeah, On the Dark Side. We play On the Dark Side live, and the people that didn't know it would still do that 80s dance and clap along and have a great time. And we would always like extend that song because the crowd just loved it, like the groove so much, it was a ton of fun. So I was like, I got to write a song like that. So I just took those beats and I was like, I got to figure out how to, and that was a challenge to me. I've never attempted to write a song like that before. That's where it started. So did you know immediately when I sent over the file, you're just like, oh, he's trying to write a new
let me put a little
On the Dark
asterisk
Side.
on what asterisk on what you were saying, because the song started when we started talking about playing that song a long time ago, and I said that song is HAF because it starts out with a clap solo.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I can do better. Let's do it. And so ultimately, we still started that song because we played that one live with the Mustangs. Actually, thank you very much for letting us do that. And
of course,
yeah, it starts out with a clap solo, and people do it. It's rad. It's like
they do it
all
every
of a sudden
time.
Just sets a tone for the whole song, and they're locked in.
Yeah, and I was like, why don't people start songs with clap solos? Why don't they do it? I guess we're just going to have to do that.
If you want the sandwich, you got to ask for the sandwich. Clap your hands, people. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's go. And it just is a great way. I think it even translates when you listen to the song on Spotify or Apple, whatever you're listening to, it still translates. Like this is a participation song. It's not a passive song that you sit there and you're like, yeah. It's like, no, you're going to clap and you're going to do your 80s dance and look like Michael J. Fox and Teen Wolf. I don't know. Like it's going to be a fun song,
Well, I mean, you got the swing feel is there for sure, but then, Cayle put that stank on it, boy, and turned it up to 11 or 11 and a half, whatever you're getting these days.
I've
got
a couple extra
amps in the background.
Yeah, I got a couple extra decimals in here somewhere, if I had a little percentage points to add up. But yeah, I thought like, okay, what would a modern version of this sound like with modern gear, modern everything, but still kind of touching back to that 80s swing vibe. And the thing, like, I never play guitar like that. I don't even write. That was my first song that I had written in I don't know how long with an electric guitar where I was playing full chords, not power chords, not drop tune chords, not single notes, but I was playing like, whatever it is, D, G, and C, whatever, D, G, and E, or whatever the chords in that song are. And that was the first time I'd ever tried to, I don't say ever, but in a really long time, where I was playing full chords on an electric guitar for a song. It was kind of, I love that though. That's what got me pumped about doing this record with you. It's like, I never tried that before. I'm just gonna
a little okay. I'm just you a little bit here, but we were in the studio recording this song, and we were going over a certain part. I can't remember what part it was, right? And I like, you go, yeah, it's this chord right here. I go, oh, A, and you're like, oh yeah, I don't know the name of that, like the full chord. I was like, what? And you're like, yeah, I mean, I do the power chords. You know what I mean? 4 5, baby. That's where I'm at.
I know. I'm better at it now than I have been. I'll give you a story.
You
Dude,
that was funny. I didn't really realize it. You're like, yeah, I don't play those. I don't have to know that.
I don't, and
Third
I felt
dot, fifth dot, seventh dot.
Yeah. the one that goes that note. What's that one? But I'm so much better at it now than I ever was, and I'll tell you why. It doesn't have to do with this podcast, but since Chris Keane was involved in the record, it does have to do with him. So I'll tell you. One time, long time ago, Chris Keane's band Surrogate, they had a guitar player couldn't make it, and they had a really cool show coming up. So somebody said, why don't you give this guy Cayle a try? He plays in bands and he loves your songs. And so he did. I've never blown it so much in my life. Like immediately, we only had a day to learn these songs, but I knew them all. So I was like, this isn't going to be a problem, because he was like, oh, it's, you play that in the D position, but just up on here. And then, that's a G minor where you just drop your pinky down. And we were just getting through one song. And I was like, so embarrassed that I didn't know the chord names. Basic, like really basic chord names. And I was so embarrassed. And we got through the show. Show was fine. I kind of learned stuff by rote memorization and fumbled around with it or whatever. But after that, I was like, okay, I can't do that anymore. I have to at least know the basic ones, So I have the basic ones down now. But
I absolutely feel you on being technically not up there. I mean, I do what I do, right to my strengths and stuff like that, but I always hire. Look, if you want to look skinny, hang around fat people. If you want to be talented, let these badasses next to you take care of the job. I'll do the words. You know what I mean? I've always surrounded myself with people who are just amazing musicians. So as far as like when they start going, yeah, we're going to modulate here and we're going to do the F9 drop down to, you might as well be telling stereo equipment or instructions to me. I have no idea what the heck you're talking about.
Well, I let that stuff go for so long because like I don't need it, right? Like just like right now, I'm actually kind of terrible with directions because I have Google Maps, and as soon as I have like the Google Map, I'm like I don't need to remember where I am or where I'm going. I got that, so I'm kind of like without it, I'm like Mr. Magoo driving around. I don't know where I am, but if I don't need it, I truly don't spend time on it. I don't make space for it in my brain. I try to do that in a lot of things in life. So when it came to these chords, all I was doing is tuning my guitar low and playing power chords the whole time. So I never had to learn it. But right when I got there, I was like, well, I mean, we're not talking about Yngwie Malmsteen or something here. This is pretty basic stuff. This is like indie pop, and I can't keep up. Like, this is embarrassing. So I started to learn basic. Yes, that Surrogate gig. I was like, dude, this is bad, Cayle. It affected me. I probably talked to Keen about that 10 times since, like for making me a better guitar player.
All the time when you're not around.
Anybody who was there was like, holy Lord, have you ever seen Cayle play guitar?
Everybody's at home raising their hand.
Yeah. Everybody's like, I was there. It was the worst gig I've ever seen. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, the gig was fun and everything like that. But yeah, now for the most part, I understand like, chords, like basic stuff.
In front of people, literally how I got into music and how I learned how to play guitar. I had a roommate in college who was great. His name's Brian Kelly. He does a little thing called oceanography now, and you should check him out. It's like indie stuff. It's really good.
Cool.
And he was an amazing guitarist, and he wanted to start a band, and he needed a singer. I said, well, I can sing. I'm like, but I'm going to play guitar in your band. And he goes, I don't want you to do that. You don't know how to play guitar. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to play. You don't even have to turn me up. Just let me stand up there and strum along with you, because nothing will make you learn faster than shit in a bed in front of a bunch of people. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, you're going to get good fast just so you don't look like a dum-dum.
Well, I think it's more of a fork in the road than it is a guarantee, because there's a lot of people that when they lose, we'll call that a loss, right? When you get embarrassed or something like that, there's people that say, that's why I don't do that anymore. And then there's the people that say, I'm never letting that happen again. I'm going to do the work to make sure that never happens again. Yeah. So it reminds me of, and hopefully this is not a political thing, but like participation trophies and stuff like that. When kids, parents are afraid to put their kids in a position to lose because when they lost, that's what made them tune out of sports or whatever, right?
Ooh, say, yeah.
And so you're like, well, but they're going to go one way or the other, right? So they're either going to lose and say, I never want to lose again because I don't like that feeling. I'm going to figure out what happened, what I take. Or they're going to say, I lost, and that's why I don't want to do that anymore. I don't like the feeling, but I don't think insulating people from losses makes them better. Unless you're just learning, right? Unless you're just learning. And that's why participation trophies may make sense as a little kid because you just want to learn how to play the game, then get competitive with it. Like learn the rules and stuff. I shouldn't be so during the rule learning phase, okay, but after that.
In my defense and in the kids' defense, alcohol really helps dull that sting of people laughing at you when you're on stage. And Chico, especially at the time we were there, had plenty of alcohol going around. So I'm sure, I was getting laughed at. Maybe I just didn't hear it behind the whole brown drink poison.
No, I'm sure you were fine. I'm sure you were great. But those losses, though, I think are really character builders. If you want to do something, if you have any type of ambition to get decent at something, passable, get better, whatever, those losses really, I always say like the losses are what makes you, the wins give you momentum. They confirm what you've been doing, but they don't necessarily get you better. The losses are where you're like, all right, now I know where I lost. Now I know what my weakness is, and I can kind of start to overcome that.
Sure.
And so with this music, I guess I would have to thank Chris Keene for me being able, for that loss to now years later be able to write this song and actually know what chords I was playing and be able to talk about it. Now, when we take like the basic chords and you start to move them up the fret a little bit, and you're like, hey, yeah, it's just that A, we just play it this way. And I'm like, sounds good. I don't really have that in there as like you guys do, but the basic ones are what allowed me to write this song and turn it into what it is now. So I gave you the bed to do your super, again, just like hilarious, awesome lyrics that I love this whole record. Like
I think it's important that everybody writes to their strengths. You know what I mean?
And yeah,
plays to their strengths. I'm sorry.
So talk to me about these. The vibe of this song, lyrically, right? The way I see this song is like talking about those chicks that you and I used to hang out with back in the day that were the punk rockers, the tattooed chicks that were just running stuff. They ran the show. Like those chicks. Like you didn't party as hard as them. You didn't have as much fun as them. And they could pick you out of the crowd and take you home if they wanted. And if they didn't, you're just like, they're gonna talk to me? No? Okay, never mind. You know what I mean? Like those girls that used to be in that rock and roll punk rock kind of scene.
Yeah. So I'll tell you straight up, like from what you just said, friends Shelly Marie and Becky were those two girls, and they were in my head the entire time that I was writing that song. It's just I wrote it from a position of the woman being the coolest. Just the coolest, and everybody just being awe of the fact that like she's the baddest around. You know what I mean? You get a lot of songs about the dude being the baddest guy in the block, but you don't get ones where the girl just runs the show. And I just thought that was a cool way to attack it.
And I mean, let's be real. They were cooler than anything we could ever be.
They still are.
Yeah, they're cooler than us. Well, they forgot about more coolness than I'll ever learn in my entire life. Like they just like whatever, you know what I mean? You're just some bald white kid or whatever. Like you're a nerd. Get out of here. Like I got purple hair. I'm partying. I'm singing songs. I'm dancing around, and it's like people gravitate towards that and gravitated towards them. And if we were being honest at the time, we would say, yeah, those girls are the show. They run the show. Without them, it's not. The night's not as fun. The show's not as fun. And so I love that.
To have good looking girls as our friends, that brought a lot of people to the show just on its own. You know what I mean?
It didn't hurt us. And they're just like so fun. But I think every scene probably has their if they don't have that version of those girls that we had, those role models, they wish they did. I'll tell you that, because they were killer, man. They made shows fun. They made all that stuff fun. I felt like the song was a nod to those girls. I don't know if that's true or
Sorry,
not.
my daughter Pistol Peach was holding me up a note there on the, on the side.
Okay, got it. No worries. No, but I did feel I felt like this song was a nod to them the whole time. Whether you meant it or not, for me, that's how I took it. And so it sounds like that's kind of what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to tell you exactly what's going on, but yeah, that definitely had to do with it. Yeah.
And then I think it's interesting when it came to the chorus is that I did the drum part, that snare part, the right, that you do your chorus line over. I said that. I know, I saw her in the background being a cutie, running the show, of course. But that part, I had that, and I was like going to change it based on what you wanted the chorus to be. And then you just wrote right to it, and it stuck, and it was cool as hell.
Yeah. I like the fact that you just send me stuff cold, and it gets me out of my wheelhouse. You know what I mean? Country gets repetitive a little bit, and with the rock, I just had to flex.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Cayle and Cobra, everybody.
You're just getting so much love. I come out in the garage and everybody just kicks me out. I'm like, you're in there. And they're like, hey, what are you doing, sweetie? We love you. My family's like, good riddance. Get out of here.
What do you call brown drink poison? I got a video of her singing it the other day. Oh, that brings me to a little part we can talk about.
What's that?
I've ever somebody sing it the right way, like ever say brown drink poison the first time they heard the song. They always come up with their own, because no one understands. Brown drink poison's not a common term to everybody. I kind of just made it up, you know what I mean? But you got people saying all kinds of different stuff, and it's rad. Yeah, everybody just makes it their own thing.
Oh, I never thought about that. It would be one of those songs that people are kind of like, you know, and just kind of like mushmouth it.
Richie said something different, like, you know, everybody calls it, yeah, play that one song. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I am the poison. Poison.
That is so awesome. I love it because it is like it's an easy to sing chorus, and I think it's just fun as hell. And then
what you're singing, as long as you're singing, baby.
Yeah, man, I don't care. I didn't know half the lyrics of the songs that I would sing along to as a kid. I just knew I liked the chorus and I liked, you know, how it made me feel. But I will say one thing that you and I stuck with from those old cover band days, playing songs like The Dark Side and whatever, was that we put a clap solo in the beginning and then a clap solo in the bridge. Just went back there.
Clap outro, a clap.
Yeah.
We were talked about that before, but we definitely said if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. So solo intro, solo in the middle, solo outro. Everything's 8 minutes long. Throw cowbell in there. More cowbell. Let's go.
But I love that we stuck with that, and we were like, in this song, Brown Drink Poison, we're going to start with the clap solo, and then we're going to have our song, and then we're going to put another clap section in the bridge of the song. But it made me think, like, why aren't more bands doing stuff like that? Just because.
You know what? I'll tell you what. We've tapped on this before, and we definitely tap into it when we have our conversations just between me and you. But some people get so damn worried about what people think, they don't do it, right? And they go, oh, well, that's cheesy or something. Hell yeah, it's cheesy. It's rock and roll, you know? And then the other thing is, like, my train of thought, but the fact that we don't know, at least I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have anybody to tell me you're doing it wrong. Like, you know what would sound awesome right there? Or a cowbell, or a clap solo, or something like that. You know what I mean? So throw it in there, make them move.
That's what I'm saying. We do it, and I think that's cool. It's like sometimes you would call me up, like, "Hey, what if we did this? We made it like blah blah blah," and I'll be like, "I'll try it," and we just try it.
Crazy Train would be Crazy Train without the vibra slap in the beginning.
Yeah,
I guarantee you, Ozzy had that shit sitting on the drum set over there, and he was like, what does this do? Hey,
Yep. That's
There
the
you
intro.
go.
Let's go. Yeah, that I think is really cool that we just tried it because we could. Nobody, I mean, if you took this to like a major producer or something like that, they would be like, hey, this is your bridge. Like, why, your bridge is supposed to do this. Your bridge is supposed to go there. You're not supposed to start songs with a clap solo because you're supposed to get to the hook within 1 minute and blah, blah, blah. But we were just like, I don't know, sounds cool. Sounds fun. It just made me smile.
I mean,
So
you
that's
are
the
my
song.
producer, so
Yeah. Well, that's what's cool. And I tell my daughters this all the time. And I bet Pistol Pete will start to ask you this. It's like, my daughter's learning guitar and she'll be like, oh, is this how you're supposed to do this or supposed to do that? And I'm like religious about saying, when you play music, you get to do whatever you want. Like somebody before you, how they came up with something that you like is they just did it because they get to. So when you write songs, you get to write them about whatever you want. When you play guitar, you get to play it however you want, whatever. There's no rules in music, and don't let anybody tell you that there is, because it's supposed to be you coming out.
I think it's Billy Madison or one of those Adam Sandler movies where he's like, I have a microphone and you don't. Say, dude, this is your time to shine. Say it. Mm-hmm. Say what you feel. I love it.
Yeah, and that's what I felt like this whole record has been us just saying, like, whatever, let's just do it because it makes us smile.
Well, once people hear the entirety of this thing too, you're definitely going to see what our influences are. And this album range, there's a huge range of what we got. We got a ballad, we got a rock ballad on this bad boy. You know what I mean? We got some straight AC/DC style rockers. You know what I mean? We got some heavy ones. We got ourselves the heaviest gospel song you ever heard in your life. You know what I mean? It's cool. And I love the fact that you're up for anything when you're doing stuff. Like, what do you think about this, Cayle? And 9 times out of 10, you're like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Let's go for it. No, you know what most of the phone calls are from me, from you? And this is one of them. Hey, have you ever heard that one song from that one thing? Screw that song. We can do better. And then there you go. We're off and running.
Yeah, it's like, hey, let's improve on that. Why isn't anybody trying to improve on that? Like, because there's some veins of like music that they kind of just die on the vine, like they die off. It's like,
the one in particular, I remember it was a phone call because we get to talk in the morning before we go to work, respectively. And this is for the country band that I had, and you came up with the idea you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. But the phone call was, hey, Shelby, do you know that song Closing Time? Oh, it wasn't even a phone call. I think you left me a voice message on my phone.
Yeah, it was a voice note. It was a voice note, yeah.
You know that song Closing Time? Closing Time. Fuck that song. They play that song at every single bar in the world at 1:30 in the morning. We could do better. And then next thing you know, we will.
That's other one. Yeah. Was good. Hey, guess what? That when people hear that song, they're going to be hyped because that's a rad song. That is a really good song. You turned it into a badass song. It's awesome. I love it. Yeah, but that's how a lot of our songs, like, hey, why don't we have an 80 in the Cruisers type song? Why aren't people doing this? We're doing that. We're going to smash it. Yep. And that's how Brown Drink Poison came to be. And there's a bunch of songs like that on the record that's like, why aren't people doing this? Well, we're doing it.
Let's see. There's a band called Airborne. There's a band called Rhino Bucket. And if you didn't know, these were bands that are current, you would think that it was Bon Scott AC/DC. And I'm all about it because I like Bon Scott AC/DC. And if you're going to rob from somebody, rob from the greatest. You know what I mean? Like, dude, play what you know. Play what you love to hear. You know what I'm saying? I don't see any kind of guilt in leaning heavily on my influences. I love that stuff.
Same, like that band Greta Van Fleet. That is a straight up, like, first the direct rip off of Led Zeppelin's first couple of records. Right? Sounds really, dead on. Yeah, it's so dead on. But you know what?
He dresses like he should be working at the Matterhorn at Disneyland, though. I don't really understand.
I know, I don't get that either. But it's not like Led Zeppelin's going to be making those records again. You know what I mean? Like, they can't continue on. They're too old to do it. So these kids are like, well, nobody else is going to make those, so we're going to make them. Yeah. And they rip it. And they have rip it hard, yeah. But they have no thoughts about, like, oh, are we ripping off Zeppelin too hard? They're just like, this is our favorite music. This is what we listen to. What else would we play? And it's that type of, like, ownership of who and comfortable, like being comfortable with who they are, that now they're huge because they're not You know, like
I
they're
watched
not self-conscious about it. They're not like trying to hide it. They're just like, this rips. More people should be doing this. And
They'll
there you
make
go.
it their own too, though. I mean, I watched an interview one time with a country music producer out of Nashville, and he was talking about, and I think it was like George Strait or something, saying that I think this song that I have is too much like Willie Nelson. And the guy says, "All right, I tell you what, I want you to play a Willie Nelson song that you know, and I want you to sound as close as you possibly can to Willie Nelson. And I can guarantee you, you're only going to sound like George Strait, whoever he was talking about. You know what I mean? You could do
That's
whatever you
great.
want, but it's going to be you when it comes down to it. You know what I mean? And then you just throw some sprinkles on it, and it's really you.
That's amazing. Seriously, that's a great
He's
way
a very
to put it.
smart dude, I bet.
Because I feel like you are that way. Like this doesn't sound like Dark Side in any way. It doesn't sound like Bruce Springsteen or whatever. This sounds like you. 100%. And sure, that's where there's a spark that started the song for me. But then when it's me and you, and we have these big drums and big guitars and your vocals and your lyrics and everything, it just sounds like you. It doesn't sound like anyone else. It's really, I love that. Anything else about this song that we should touch on that makes you smile?
No, well, I want to ask you, how did you come up with the? I mean, I guess you talked a little bit about the fact that you like the swing and stuff like that, but I mean, was there any influences that you had as opposed to like Dark Side or something like that, or do you? Okay, check this out. Do you have a Cayle sound that you want to put in there that is always going to be that Cayle sound? Because I can tell you what it is. Christine definitely has an idea of what a Cayle sound is. Do you recognize that you have a Cayle sound that you sprinkle on everything?
I know that I only have about 4 different types of songs that I write. 4 different types of riffs. They're either like a single string riff, like just playing everything on the low string, because it's more like me just kind of like singing, so I can do that. Or it's like a fast. I mean, I really have about 4. I have about 4. I kind of know what they are. Yeah, I don't know. I try not to think about it, but yeah, I think it's probably, I don't know. If I was going to say what's the Cayle sound, it's probably like some single string guitar riffs. That's probably what I do a lot, but I don't know. What do you think it is?
It's heavy, and it's always going to be metal. I mean, because I'll send you stuff where it's like tinny sounding, like, out of a Marshall stack, really like brassy sounding guitar, open chord, kind of that sound, and all of a sudden it comes back and it's like drop D, as heavy as it can get. I'm like, there it is. But it sounds big. I mean, I never dislike it. It's great.
No, always. Even this song probably should be played on something a little bit more sparse guitar wise, just more rock and more Thin Lizzy than, Metallica or whatever. But of course I was like, there's just not enough gain on here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And then the bass,
it would be Hunter.
Thing. I know, it's so dumb. It just doesn't sound big to me unless those guitars have like some snarl to them, like, unless it's like, tune it down a little bit, give me a little bit more gain, fill up those speakers, and that, yeah, I don't really stop until
times when we're sitting in the studio, me and you, and we're like, Chris is like, a little more distortion, and then both of us would get that sweet spot when it's just about breaking the stereo. You're like, that's it. That'll do.
That's it. Yep. Just turn it up. Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it, but a little bit more.
I know. So this I say, just like every other song on this record, is like, it is like those songs, those influences played through like a metal filter, right? Like everything has got to have some sort of a metal sound to it, like, yeah, that's what it is. It just went through like a little.
The Creeks Don't Rise. People will be like, "Oh, man, we're going to copy that Cobra Hunter sound." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like at the time, AC/DC and Lizzy and all those bands were writing with the loudest, craziest amps they could find. Just the crazier ones didn't exist yet, or else they probably would have used those. And now we got access to everything. So I'm just like, let's push it, man. Let's make the guitar sounds fucking crazy and huge and nasty. So yeah, I guess that's right. But that's so funny to hear that about yourself. Like everything is through a metal lens. Everything. I can't help it. I can't just shut up.
There's just been numerous times, and Christine, I love him to death, and he's just like hits back in his chair and he goes, Cayle. Everything. It's just metal. Everything.
Ah, oh, I love it. I love it. It's so awesome. Okay. On that note, that's, I think, does it for Brown Drink Poison, for episode 4 of the Green Truck Records podcast. Thanks for joining me and calling me out and making me let the world
Love you,
know that
pal.
everything's metal. I love you. Thanks, everybody, for listening.